Cool. So we're going over the mock challenge, national parks, just rolling through that practice there. Let me share my code window, which is totally somewhere. Where is it? Huh. I'm trying again. Apps. Nope. Come on, Chrome, what's up? Or Zoom. Code, there it is. All these windows look the same. Wait. The full screen. Cool. So this should be similar to the stuff we went through yesterday. It's got that same V shape with the kind of outer models and then the join model that we're looking at in the middle there. In this case, it is we have three models, and that is the national park, the visitor, and the trip. And the trip is the join relation there. So every national park has many trips, every visitor has many trips, and a trip belongs to both of those. And so that means we have, national park has many visitors through trips. Visitor has many national parks through trips. We don't have a little drawing of that, do we? No. But yeah, it's that V shape. So topics. It's weird that they put that in here. Cool. So we got everything installed. Let me PyTest. Yeah, cool. If stuff was passing, it would be a problem. All right. So let's start looking at what we need to do. We're going to start writing these methods in these classes. So this should be pretty straightforward. We've got a visitor with an initializer with a name, and we got property name, and it's going to raise the exception. So we are going to have to use the property decorators and whatnot, because we want to be doing the logic in those centers. Same with national park, setting with a name. It has after. And then we'll put the trip together that has both of those. Awesome. That should be pretty straightforward. Let's see, what do we have here? We've got classes. Sweet. So let's just start from the top. Go for our visitor with the init name. I'm just going to copy this here so I can comment that stuff. That's great. Cool. So we've got our visitor here. Second. Interesting. Cool. So my code over here is going weird. Cool. So we are going to create the initializer here. It's initializer the name. Looks like that's already there for us. So great, done. Yeah. So we are turning name. Great. So we need to write our properties for this thing. Yep. Cool. So we're setting that the name there. We need to define our properties for that then. So that's property. And here's where we're going to do our name. Yeah. Define name and self. And that's just going to return self.name. Yeah, hello tree. So we're not doing anything else there. Cool. And so that's our getter. And now we need to do name setter. That's going to be same thing, self, and we'll take the name there. So here's where we want to do some logic. Um, so if we weren't doing any logic, we'd just be doing self.name, name. Great. So here's where we want to do our logic. It must be of the type of string, and it must be between 1 and 15 characters, and we're going to be raising exception if it fails. Cool, 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 cool. So we can do this with an if. So we're going to say check the string type is instance string. Stir. We can check for both of them here, I guess. So if it is the instance, and we need to make sure that it is between 1 and 15, we need to do what here? Name instance name string. Right? Yeah. And so we need to do the length one, and that is name, or the other way around, len name, and I think we can do. I think we can do this. Cool. Otherwise, we're going to raise our exception. Exception. Cool. String 1 through 15. I feel like that is going to give us some good stuff. Let's see. Cool. Initialize the name type string is failing.
Yeah, I think the test and deliverables aren't in sync.
Oh, great.
Yeah, they aren't in the same order at all.
Yeah,
same
that's
order.
testing for National Park, not
Oh
for
yeah, look at that,
visitor.
National Park. Well,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Cool. Well, let's do that then. No, actually, let's just go through and see what we get here. Visitor National Park. Cool. Let's do that one.
I got an error when I tried to like do the, combine my string count, right?
Mm-hmm.
It could have been that the error, it was other errors, or other non reasons for not passing, and I had to split it up into two things of check if it's over 1 and then check if it's under 15.
Yeah. So this didn't work for you here?
It could have been because that.
Cool. Awesome. Let's see. Well, let's see if it does work. We don't know yet because it hasn't hit that for us. So we've got our name. It's given us some other stuff too. Great. So we want to pick that up again. We want to look at our national park init name, self name. Great. Let's do that. We want to look at the property name and should not be able to change the name after the national park is created. Cool. Raise exception if setter fails. We should not have a setter, right? That does it test for that? The string can't change the.
I think that's the visitor test.
Yeah. Oh, visitor test. Yeah. Or the national park test. Name string setter. Why would we give it? Well, let me see. Because if we just don't define that, it should work, right? I guess we have to define a setter that's gonna not do it for us, right? Right. Cool. Let's see what that looks like. So national park. That's interesting. So that's there. Um, national park. We want to get a property for that. Great. So we're gonna do property. We're gonna do def. Def name is self. Return it. Self name. Great. And that will not pass this test because I think we can still do that. Yeah, great. So we need to pass our we need our property center. And here's where we define the name. And we'll just raise an exception, I guess. We don't want to. Yeah. That makes sense because we if we're setting it at all, it's if center fails. That's weird. That's weird wording. Center fails. Cool. Let's see what the tests say. Cool. Don't apply to a function object. What does that mean? Descriptor setter for property objects don't apply as a function object.
It should be on the setter, like the thing you're setting dot setter.
Yeah, this is our. Wait, say that again.
So like name dot setter instead of,
Name.setter. That's what it is. Thank you.
and then I think this was also another case where like it said then in the test that like you need to check for some stuff that maybe it didn't say in the README.
Interesting. So let's see what's the test. It should be initialized with a name. Should be initialized with a name. Let's take a look at what that test is looking for then. Should be initialized with a name. Failed. NP name equals flat irons. That seems right. Is that not right? Name, property name, return self name. What it doesn't tell us what it's getting instead, does it?
I know the test below that at least says we need to like check that it's a string,
Check that it's a string.
and that might
Yeah,
get bugged.
that might be it. Interesting, because we wouldn't. Curious about this, so I'm gonna write this as if we can set it, I guess. So that we can't change the name. Interesting. It's a string. I'm going to write this as if we can change it, and then go from there. See what the tests say. So say self name. This should still fail some because we don't want to. Interesting. Maximum recursion depth.
You have to do the one underscore in the self dot names in the property.
Oh yeah, maybe it's not liking that. Let's do this. Name there. Yeah, that way to do it. Let's see. I might do something. Cool. Yep, that's what I was looking for then. Okay, cool. So now That's so weird because I would just want it to raise the exception. And it has adverb. Not sure what that is asking for there.
It was like, so it works when you add like, if is instance and then do and not has attribute.
Hmm.
Like, and it's just again like another mismatch of like it says should not be able to change after it's created, but what
Yeah.
it seems to mean is like you shouldn't be able to create the one with the same name.
Or you should be able to. So and not has adverb.
It was like, yeah, the way I interpret this is like, yeah, it'll do an exception if you set something with a name that already exists, but then the wording in the readme is like you shouldn't be able to change it.
Yeah.
Kind of like, yeah, a little not
Interesting. So what is failing here? Class exception. Looks like it's raising exception. So if that's so weird. The test is so weird. National Park Wild West. Cert is instance. Great. Why would it raise an exception here? Oh, because it's trying to. Oh, because we're trying to set that as two that. So if we try and create National Park 2, it's expecting it to raise exception there. So actually, it wants the tests for the string here. So
That's what I did to get it to pass. I put an if not is instance.
yeah,
I don't know why that, but it worked.
do self. Yeah, instance. Make string. Yeah, let's see if that goes. Cool, cool. That did it. Weird, weird.
not to make things more complicated, but I did not do that. I
Mhm.
did exactly what you've got from 15 to 20, and it passed on my side.
Interesting. Oh, I bet I know what. Since we're doing a check in there, if instead of saying the underscore name, if we use the if we use that, then that will be calling this instead, and that should pass.
Yeah, that's what I had.
Yeah, that's a real weird way to do it. But if it works, it works. Great, cool. Let's go. Gross, gross. Let's see. What is next? Our trip should be initialized in the setter. National Park. What's our next test? How about that? National Park has many trips. National Park has many trips. So if we are creating a national park, and we're creating trips, so we're looking for the length of P1 trips there. Okay, so that means that we want that there. Okay, cool. Let's just check the trip code real fast and see. It's got there self-visitor national park that date. That looks fine. That looks fine. Cool. Oh, we've got that. We've got that. We've got that. Cool. National park has many trips. Let's define that. National park has many trips. Is it saying that it wants to be a trips? So it looks like that wants to be a instance method, even though it's okay, cool. P1 is national park, park one. Great. Cool. So our park wants a trips instance method. Oh, look at that. Cool. It's got that. So it wants to return a list of all trips planned for that park. Great. List of trips must contain type trip. Great. Visitors. Okay, let's do the trips part. Trips. Cool. We want to give it have it return a list of the trips. Okay, cool. So this again, it's super unclearly written. Returns a list of all the trips planned for this national park. Interesting. Yeah. So I wonder because it's list of trips equals. This is interesting because this seems to want to say when we create a trip, it adds there instead of doing it the way we were doing it yesterday. Well, let's go along with this and see what happens. So national park has trips. That's so weird. I would not do it that way. I'm gonna ask y'all. How did you implement this? Because the way they're suggesting here doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I didn't use those arrays in the init at all.
Yeah. I'm going to get rid of them then, because that doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. I'm gonna make another note to submit another submit pull request.
Because if they tested them on like those attributes of the national park, then it would make sense, but it just tests the return value of the method. So
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense to do that, 'cause especially the way we're trying to think about it. I will double check the code challenges to see if they are goofy like that. I don't think they are, but I'll double check that before we do it tomorrow and stuff.
I did use, I mean, I kind of took the route of like, I'm not gonna touch the stuff that was given,
mhm,
or not by touch, I mean, I'm not gonna mess with,
Right.
just what was given. So it was fairly simple, right? I just in the trips method, it's basically gives you like what your let's see, where is it? Gives you that like it's taking a new trip. So I just wrote like, okay, well, and it wants to check if that new trip is of the class trip.
mhm.
Do like a is instance of new trip, and then you just add that new trip that you're passing in to the weird list it gave at the top.
Is it asking for that here? Visitor trips, national parks trips. National parks has many trips. So national park trips, where is it? So I see that it's asking for a new trip here. I don't see in the README where it's asking to do that. Think for that.
So it says, so you want that method to return return a list of trips, and it like provided that empty list of trips. And then it wants you to check that the trip you're adding to that list, check that it is in fact a trip, which is strange to wrap your head around. But like, if you just right, if new trip is instance of trip,
Mhm.
right, stuff out there, then append that new trip to the self dot trips
Is it
list.
is it testing for that? So I'm seeing it's just trips here. Oh yeah, there's a new one there. Nope, trips that. Yeah, it does. So this is weird because it's not asking for that, right? It's just saying returns a list. It doesn't say anything about adding them. Weird. Um,
Without adding it, and maybe it would pass, it would just be an empty list.
so let's return self trips. Um, I don't think that's going to pass because, yeah, because we're not adding the trips anywhere when we create a trip. Right, the trips still just list here. So we would need some way to add a new trip here. So maybe this is where it's expecting trip to use that. These requirements are not really written well. I don't think either something's mismatching for me here. That's real weird. That's real weird because it feels like it's expecting us to do like um, national park trips self. Would it add the trip there? And so then here we would do the yeah, so we would do the if, well, like we were just saying, if instance trip self trips. New trip. That seems like what it wants us to do there. Does that sound right?
Yes, that looks right. Where
Many parks fails there. We're missing Steve.
I had to put if new trip and is instance. So like if the new trip, I guess, exists at all and is an instance of trip.
So if new trip and okay, yeah, that makes more sense. Still failing there. Steve, what's it looking for? It's got a recursion thing here. Cool, 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 cool. That's a visitor. We would do the same thing for a visitor here. Self name equals name, but this self name equals name. Hey, we did it. Oh, geez. Okay. Yeah, wow. Interesting. That's that feels way harder than it needs to be. Or it's defined. Yeah, the requirements and tests don't feel like they match the intention. Cool, 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 cool. Looks like we want to do the same thing with visitors, I guess. Visitors, visitor. So yeah. So so my because this doesn't really make a lot of sense to me the way it seems they want it here. So it seems like they want to add visitors to this class, but we already have the trips, right? And the trips have visitors. So I would probably just do list comprehension. Visitor in self. No, it's wait, trips. Trip visitor for trip. Because we have a bunch of trips, right? And each one of those trips has a visitor. So if I just return the list of visitors from our trips, I would say that satisfies the requirement. Cool. It does. Oh yeah, that did great. That worked. Weird. Yeah. So 100% transparency. The guy who wrote this part of the curriculum is not with us anymore. I'm wondering. Yeah, wondering if this is why. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna talk to the curriculum folks and see if we can get this fixed up because it's weird. Yeah, because it seems like you could do all this the same way that we did stuff yesterday. And I would never want to do this here. That's not something I would do. Well, let's run with it. Let's see if we can make this work. Rule 1, right? National Parks has unique list of all the visitors that have visited. So let's see. National Parks visitors returns unique list. Great. That should be capital T there too. Yeah, attention to detail is not here. Great. I'm glad this is a practice one, not the real one. Cool. Returns a unique list of all the visitors. So again, we have, and the trips have visitors as well. Parks has a unique list. Oh, so all we want to do is has unique visitors. Yeah, so we just need to uniqueify that, right? Can we just call unique on it? I'm gonna look up if there's a Python unique. I know Ruby has it. Or do we need to do like turn it into a set or something first? Yeah, that's a way to do it. Yeah, I would definitely use set. Oh yeah, NumPy is the one that does it. That has unique. It's not built into Python. Yeah. Great. So there are basically three ways because we want this to turn instead of returning this list, we want to return the this list with no repeated visitors in it. So if we are using a different language, like do that, by visitor, whatever. We're not using Ruby or JavaScript, so we need to do something here. We could, as we are, instead of doing a list comprehension, we could do like a for the visitors in self trips there, and then push it into a new list and check to see if it's already there or not. I don't think, I mean, if it works, it works. That's great. I don't think I would do it that way. Or I guess you could use a list comprehension in there, right? Maybe. Yeah. But what I would do probably is use and this is a trick I use in JavaScript all the time too, is to uniqueify something quickly. You can turn it into a set and then get the values out of that set because things in sets are unique. So I would want to turn the visitor list into a set. So let me see. I'm just going to do visitor set equals I think you can just say set, right? Is it lowercase set? Yeah. Maybe I should put parentheses around it. Very good. So a set is a thing in Python where everything is unique. So this should create a unique set of the visitors. And actually, I can just return, so I can turn that back into a list. So I'm just going to return the list of that set. So we're basically taking that list of visitors and then making it a set, and then making it a list again immediately. That should uniqueify stuff, I think. Let's see if it works.
That's exactly what I did.
Fantastic, that works. Great. Happy days all around. Yeah, that's interesting that they wouldn't. Yeah. Okay, cool. Correct total visits in national park. What is it testing for here? Let's see. Let's look at our README first. Total visits. Is this a... Okay, cool. So this is going to be a list of total number of times the park has been visited. So that's just counting trips, it sounds like, right? Should be 1, 2, yeah, we're just counting trips. So I feel like that's just going to return the length of trips. That seems too easy, but we'll see if that works. Yep, great, cool. We can just return the number of trips there. Fantastic. I would probably, just in case, do that. Because then we're not relying on a specific implementation of the trips. So if we decided to not keep the trips in here and do it the way we did it yesterday, that would still work. Cool. Get the visitor that visited the park the most. Okay, cool. So we want to get the visitors. So let's get the visitors. And that's going to be a unique list here. So we don't need to worry about uniquing that. Curious. So again, we could, there's a few ways we could loop through it. And just go through and say, oh, if start with set a variable starts with 0, loop through the list and say, if this visitor's number of visits is greater than the highest visit so far, then set the highest visit to that. Let me type it out. So we would say like most visits 0. We would say I guess we need to keep track of the visitor too. Best good visitor, I guess. And we're just gonna say that's null, none, I guess, none in Python, right? And so then we want to loop through our visitor list and say for visitor viz for viz in self visitors. So we're looping through that unique list. And then we will say, so this is the number of visits. Does the visitor keep track of any of that? Did we skip that part? Return the list of all the trips for that visitor. Because I think what we'd want to do is get, we want to get the number of trips Yeah, so we would have to do a couple of things here. We would have to I totally lost myself. There we are. We would have to say that like the number of visits is we're going to want to create a list out of list comprehension and take the length of that. So we'll do that first. And so the list comprehension we want is we want to turn the trips for that visitor, which we don't have yet, but we'll write that in a second. So we would want the for I guess we could look at our trips, not the visitors' trips. Either way, I think either way would work. Yeah, so if we do self trips, we would want the yeah, we would get the trips for trip trip for trip in self trips. So that'll get us the trips. And we want to say include that one only if the trip visitor equals the visitor. Something's wrong. What doesn't it like?
You're missing an equal sign.
Ah, yes. There we go. So that's the new visitor, and that's the number of visits for that visitor. Trips. I think that works. I think it works. And then we'll say if the new number of visits is greater than most visits, then we say most visits equals that. And good visitor equals viz here. Is this not the same? Looks like it is. Oh, why is it not giving that? Okay. Anyway, yeah, and then when we're done with that, we just pop out of here and then return good visitor. That feels like a really ugly way to do it, but let's see if it works. Nope. Good. Where did we go wrong in here? Oh, we did our recursion. Is there a name problem in visitor? No. Of name. Center there. What's our recursion here? Visitor line 8. It's there we go. That'll do it. Okay, let's try one more time. Hey, that works. Great. Rule 1, that works. That's super ugly though. And I don't like it. What's another way we could do this? I wonder if let me look at the Python math. If Python has a max, I might want to use that. But if it's numpy, I don't want to. Numpy, NUMPY is if you wind up doing any like statistics or anything like that, you'll definitely be using that as a bunch of numerical functions that are bolted onto Python because Python doesn't have them. I think okay, so Python has a max function that's going to give us but it doesn't have the like key thing that I would like to say get the max of a list based on one of the keys. I don't think we can do that. Yes, let me do another Python max based on key. Hey, look at that. Key and lambda function. Yep, that's what I want to do. Huh. I guess it can do that. Interesting. I'm going to try it and see if it works. Cool. So I think, did we use it yesterday? I thought we did. So I think I would like to see if I can do this in one go. I'm going to use the max function on self visitors. So just like that, it would return the highest number, which in this case is probably going to error out and or give us something arbitrary. Yeah, great. So there's no greater than. Ooh, that's another thing we could do. Interesting. I'll do that. I'll try that out afterwards. Interesting. Okay, cool. So let's do. Yeah, okay. So let's instead do max visitors key equals, and here we're going to throw in a, hey, yeah, look, it does do that. Awesome. Key equals lambda, and this is our quote unquote arrow function. Yeah. So take the visitor and return visitor visits. Because visitor doesn't have a list of. Okay, so this lambda is going to be a little bit trickier then. So this is going to be this is going to be the length of a comprehension looking at yeah. So visitor, I'm going to call it viz here. Viz for viz in. No, I want to do trip. I want to do trip viz for viz in. Nope, for trip in self trips. Yep, trips. Where for trips and self trips. Why doesn't it like that? Trip is not defined. It's defined right there. I'll write the whole thing out first. Can I do that? Trip is, oh yeah, just like this. And self underscore trips. Great. Why is it not saying that? Why is it saying? Oh, because I'm getting punchy and using those there. Okay, great. Max, len, great. Yeah, that makes that. Cool. So trips if where's self visitors key equals v. Okay, so if v equals I'm going to call this viz for a little bit of readability, just the tiniest little bit. If viz double equals trip dot viz, and we close off the max, and then we still have an error somewhere. And
It's in a bracket, right? Like right, kind of
right
where
there.
you.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Is that gonna work possibly? Nope. Okay, cool. Max where self visitors. Oh, it should be. Let's try this. Let's make this the comprehension. No, do we? No, because we're already getting the visitors there, so we don't need to do that. We don't need to do this either, because our visitors are always going to be there. Equals length viz for trip in. No, that's not right. Yep, this is too complicated. Don't overcomplicate it. Ugly and working is better than complicated and not working. So there's got to be a funky way to do it with a comprehension like that. Though, let's take the ugly and working way then, especially since we are under a time limit, right? In theory, cannot change the name of the visitor. Did we say? Yeah, so it doesn't have the name string. I'm just gonna wrap this whole thing in if. No, self name like that. That indent all these because F. So there. Cool. I think copying that from our other one should do that part. Nope, it doesn't. If not has at her name. That seems.
Do you need another exception? Since you-
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Yeah, so maybe I'll just put this in here. Put back the way it was. Tab all of those. If I'll make it the first one. So if it doesn't have a self attribute name and all the other stuff, raise exception. So otherwise we need to raise 2 exceptions. And that's seems bad. Great. A visitor has many trips. Great, great. And this seems like it would be kind of the where'd that go again? So weird. It seems like it would be the same kind of thing as we did for National Park. But National Park is gonna, I guess we could just get park trips. Yeah. Could we just do, I think we can just do, yeah, let's see that. Visitor has type trips. Yeah, we would be able to do it exactly that way. So we're not keeping track of the trips though. And this is where I would pull it from trips. Yeah, the inside out of this is doing my head in a little bit. You know, I'm just gonna throw trips in here. Self trips equals an empty thing. And then yeah, I guess we'll use oh yeah, we're gonna do the same thing as we did here. So we'll do visitor. And then we'll basically just do the same thing that we did in here. If it's a new trip and as an instance, we can see this is why the inside out feels bad to me, because we are, I mean, literally Python. Return self trips. Great. So we're literally writing this same return. It's not Ruby. The same method in these two, which is not super bad now, but if we were in a more complex setup and there were 10 of these outside classes that were, you know, had join classes, we'd be writing this exact same function 10 times instead of using the join class. I don't like it, but if it passes, I'll take it. Cool. And it needs a unique list of all the parks they have visited. And that's going to be the same thing here. We're just going to do that only in reverse. list set. And then we're going to take the do a comprehension for getting all the visitors. So for we have all our trips for trip visitor park, right? Park. National park. Park. For trip in self trips. That seems right. Hey, that was it. Easy. Yeah. So these work. Is there anything in here that it didn't test for? It doesn't look like it. Yeah. So these work. I don't like the way it's set up. I don't like the implications that the code that is set there implies, because I don't want to, because again, thinking about scaling this, right? If there were more than 2 of these, each one would have a trips list, and it would have to call, that 10 times on 10 different objects, which means that we would be keeping the, again, thinking about this is rule 3 stuff, but thinking about scaling that, we would, if we had 1,000,000 trips, we would be keeping 1,000,000 trips in a bunch of different places, and that's too much memory. So instead, I would architect this in the inside out of which this is the inside out way. I do it back the other way, where I'd keep like visitors. I can spell visitor. Visitors equals that. Parks equals that. The other thing that. And then every time I created those, this would be the list of all the things. So if we needed to get a list all of all those, I grab it there, and then the outside ones could just address the inside one, kind of like the one, more like the one we did yesterday. Yeah, I don't like this setup at all. That is, yeah, it feels like a kind of inside out way to do it, and also I don't think this is very clear. So that's practice in doing that. Yeah, interesting. Yeah. Other questions and thoughts here before we kind of move on a little bit?
Will the code challenge be just like this?
It should be more like the one we did yesterday. It will. I will double check. It should not be as weird and inside out and ill-defined as this one. But
should we do the one from yesterday to like practice for the code challenge, or should we do this?
And actually, a good. This one is a good practice, I think. I would start out with just empty classes, so you're not kind of working in their weird structure there. Yeah, it would be interesting to build this from scratch without any of the skeleton they gave there, to see what your inclination is for, like, what's your, which way you would want to build it. Because that's like the encapsulation part of object-oriented stuff is we shouldn't care what the internals look like of the class. We just care that they implement the things. So yeah, I would say this is actually a pretty good practice, despite the tests being a little bit weird. But I would say start with empty classes and build them from scratch. Yeah. But yesterday's is really good too. Other thoughts, questions?
I thought I had a handle on this based on the one yesterday, but then like after seeing you walk through this one, I'm like, oh.
Yeah, I mean, you saw me working through this one. I don't feel like this is like training for a marathon with weights on your legs. Like it feels like this is good practice, but it's not representative, I think, of what we want to do.
I was worried about repeating code because I mean in the README, it says, do not repeat yourself. So I was like, okay, well maybe like there's something I'm missing here.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say it's a poorly written challenge. That's yeah, that is my opinion on this one. Because yeah, it's saying don't repeat in general, don't repeat code, but then it's like making you repeat code, which feels weird. Yeah, I don't like it. I don't like it. But yeah, I'll go through the challenges that the real challenges we have and see, make sure that they are less like this one and more like yesterday's. Make myself a note to do that now.
Are there any other kind of mocks that you could release? That we
Yeah,
could
there are. Let me see. Very good. Phase 3. Cool. Yeah. We have down here at the bottom. Yeah. I just opened up 2 more of the mock challenges. Game Tracker and Coffee Shop. They're in the same section as the National Parks one. I have not vetted these, so they might be more close to this one. But take a look at them. Let me. Oh, that looks pretty good. That looks pretty good. What does the code look like? Yeah. The coffee shop one looks reasonable at first glance. Yeah, so those 2 should be pretty decent. I'm going to go through them a little bit more than just a glance to make sure. But yeah, give those ones a shot. And then tomorrow, so these are kind of the mock challenges that we will often give as the like mock challenges. I like giving one of the actual challenges as a mock challenge. So what we'll do for a mock challenge tomorrow will be one of the actual challenges. And we won't be doing that one clearly. But yeah, so then that'll give you a 100% idea of what we're looking for. Are you able to see those
Sweet.
ones? Okay.
I got them.
Cool. Yeah. Sweet. Stop sharing. So boom. Cool. Yeah, that was a mess. Any other questions or comments?
You said the coffee shop one is good, right?
At first glance, don't
Okay.
believe me though. I haven't run through it completely in 15 weeks. Yeah, I'll take another skim through those and make sure that they're at least reasonable. Yeah. Anything else? Awesome. I will put this recording up in the usual places, even if it's not the best represented thing, and post it in the channel. And yeah, if there's nothing else, thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you at the end of the day. Thanks for sitting through this.